Hey, and welcome to the stream, everybody. I have got a great one for you today. We're going to be talking about these guys right here, these masters. Right here. Jesus, Laozi, Marcus Aurelius, Buddha, and Krishna. What do they agree on, and how do they all tell us to follow the way of service? Which is why I created it, because I realized this is what all of the great spiritual masters have taught us and told us for thousands of years. And we're going to go over 6 different categories under which they agree. I have 30 quotes from you, one from each for each category, and it's going to be awesome. So, welcome to the live stream, everybody. Say hi in the chat. I see we got Matthew A. and Ryan in here. Hello to both of you. Welcome. Love you guys. I'm so happy to have you join us. So I am super excited about this presentation I put together. I've been working on it the last couple days. It's just so fun to read these quotes. You know, obviously, when you pour yourself into spiritual texts and just the wisdom of these great masters, it makes life so good. Hello, Yale. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, so welcome. I'm like I said, I'm excited. I've spent the last couple of days reading these quotes, and I have been having a great time. I'm having a great time reading them. I mean, I was crying yesterday. Honestly, as I was reading some of these different quotes. It's just so powerful and awesome, and I'm excited to get into them. So let's do it. So, like I said, there's 6 categories that we're going to talk about today. The first one is service. I wanted to start with that one because it kind of sets the tone. Obviously, like I said, this is the way of service. And all these masters, basically they say service is the way to live your life. And it's the way to orient yourself. And that is the argument of this channel. Service is through action. That's the second one. So, you know, some people believe that you can just, believe in God and talk about God and believe in doing the right thing, and then if you don't actually do it in your life, you'll see all the masters agree that is not the way to be. And then, of course, I want to tell you that there are great rewards from following these things. That's number 3. What do these masters say about what are the rewards that you get from following this selfless path? Because that is probably, what other reason would someone not follow the selfless path that has been prescribed through every single religion, spiritual teaching? Why would you not do it? Is because you don't think that it's worth it. Maybe you maybe you don't believe in God. Maybe you don't believe in karma or the ultimate good winning out, the ultimate purpose of life being to do good. So if you don't believe these things, you'll believe that the selfish path is correct, and that'll be the rationalization. So I want to go over the rewards for it, about that these masters mention, and that is also a big part of the way of service. I want to connect these spiritual teachings that sometimes feel very out of reach for a lot of people. Like if people say you want to be Christ-like, to be Christ-like sounds very challenging. I mean, at least it does to me. When I hear that, it's like, wow, I'm so far away from that. But we're really not that far away from it. And I want to demonstrate that through this and through the channel, that we can really be like this. We can be like Jesus Christ. We can be like Laozi, like Buddha. And it's not that far away. And I just made a video about this, and I remember saying in the video, you can begin right where you are, because what it's really about is how you treat the people around you. Praise Christ, yoga's here too. Amazing. So glad to have everybody here. So yeah, in the chat, I want to hear what you think about these quotes. I want to hear what your favorite quote is of all the quotes that I read. And just share your thoughts. That's what I'm here for. That's why I'm live, is so that I can talk to you. Okay. All right. So that's the rewards. And then number 4 is the difficulty. And, that's another reason, and maybe even more so than maybe people think that following a selfish path has more rewards than following a selfless path. I will argue that that's not the case. These masters have demonstrated that that's not the case. But also, maybe you don't follow the way of service because it is difficult. And it is difficult in many occasions. And I believe that it's through that difficulty that we really learn and grow. And that's what life is about difficulty. Because if life was too easy, it would be boring. But I've got some good quotes about overcoming that difficulty and really just accepting the difficulty. Because if it weren't, like I said, if it weren't difficult to do the right thing, it wouldn't be interesting. Everybody would be doing the right thing, right? And then number 5 is divinity. So basically all of these things align with being like God or being one with God. And that's demonstrated in section 5. And then finally, I wanted to close on just simple advice. Like if you didn't take any of the other quotes to heart, or if you don't, if it's too much philosophical, spiritual conceptualization, I want to just give basic advice from each of these masters that's really easy to follow. Matthew A. says, selfishness is also lonely. That is right. Yeah, and that's a big theme here. All of these things are about helping others, and when we don't help others, we do isolate ourselves. And even when we interact with others, if we're not doing it to try to benefit them, we're going to have this ulterior motive, and then we're going to have social anxiety, and we're going to be confused and have a difficult time making friends and connecting with people. So, as I've said many times on this channel, I'll say it many more times. Following the way of service solves all of these problems, and that's something that I mentioned in my latest video. All right, so let's get into service, and the first quote will be from Jesus Christ. He says, "Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." So this quote is very simple. The Son of Man came to serve and to give his life as ransom. And that is what made Jesus Christ the greatest of them all. He gave his life in the service of humanity and of the planet, and for God. And that is it. That was the entire purpose of Jesus' life, was to serve. And so he was the greatest man, the greatest God to walk the earth. Whatever you believe about Jesus, his story has captured the attention and the belief, the passionate belief of billions of people on the planet over thousands of years. And it's because his life was entirely following the way of service. He was acting in service at all times. And that's what this quote demonstrates. Laozi says, "The first practice is the practice of undiscriminating virtue. Take care of those who are deserving. Also and equally, take care of those who are not." This was one of my favorite Laozi quotes. As soon as I read it, I was struck by its profound nature. And as you can see here, he says this is the first practice. And this is why I put service first, is because all of these quotes demonstrate that the first primary way to start writing your life, basically, is to start on service. And so this is the first practice. Undiscriminating virtue. Take care of those who are deserving. Also and equally take care of those who are not. And we'll get into this in the difficulty section, being able to handle when we're faced with a situation or we're faced with a person who's not behaving right. Maybe they're being rude to us. Maybe they're even an evil person. But, our instincts show us, and our awareness of the situation shows us that we can be of service to them. And maybe it is to help them turn from evil. And I think, and that'll be demonstrated in some of these quotes, but also just by being the person there that can do the thing for them. We have no idea the power of these acts of service, right? That is something that has been repeated over and over when I've looked into, just turn this up a little bit. When I've been studying these, near-death experiences, past life regressions, all the spiritual teachings, it really talks about we have no concept of how much our actions ripple out into the world and out into other people's lives. That is really why ultimately we're to follow the way of service and do these things, do the right thing, because that's where we really have this profound effect upon the world, and in the positive way that we want to see the world go. I mean, I believe that, I've heard it from a lot of people. I believe we're in a time of great awakening. We're in a time of like exciting change from this old way of selfishness and this old way of difficulty and, almost like the rule of the jungle, into an enlightened state where, people understand that doing the right thing is correct. I mean, how refreshing would it be to go out into the world and to have that be the culture, as it's not currently our culture. The mainstream culture is very atheistic. It's very materialistic, right? And that's what it is. And so, I'm working to change that with the way of service. All right. The next quote is from Marcus Aurelius. Adapt thyself to the things which thy lot has been cast, and the men among whom thou hast received thy portion. Love them, but do it truly, sincerely. So I included Marcus Aurelius in this list of great teachers because his words are so powerful and so aligned with the same words that have been spoken by Jesus, Laozi, Buddha, and Krishna. And it strikes me as so amazing that a emperor of Rome, which Marcus Aurelius was, had this level of wisdom. And I have no doubt that the greatness of the Roman Empire comes from the fact that he was able to become emperor, basically at the height of the empire. There's like a joke about how men think about the Roman Empire once a day. And it's kind of true for me. I mean, I don't know about you men out there. Let me know in the chat. But Marcus Aurelius, if you've read his meditations, it's just he's got so many of the same ideas. And there's some things that he's not quite there on. He wasn't this purely spiritual being. He was mixed up in the world. But that gives us more perspective. And that's what's so exciting about, to me, having these five masters together, showing you how their ideas all correlate and are basically the same. I was talking to my wife about this. Like, if I had to rename the way of service, maybe I would rename it mixed spiritual arts, as opposed to mixed martial arts, which has taken over the martial arts scene. Nobody practices any one martial art anymore. They practice mixed martial arts. And I feel like the best way forward for humanity is to realize that all of these spiritual teachings say the same thing, and to stop fighting amongst each other. And I'm sorry if your favorite spiritual teacher didn't make it. I know that I want to try to represent everyone, but I am very unfamiliar with the Quran and Islam, or with Muslim beliefs. So I wasn't able to include any quotes from that, but if you want to tell me about it, please tell me about it in the chat or in the comments section. And if there's any other quotes from other masters that you've seen that correlate with these, please share them. I would love to hear it. So what Marcus Aurelius is saying here is to adapt to yourself those things in which your lot has been cast and the men among you have been placed into. So what situation are you in? And then in that situation, love the people around you and do it truly and sincerely. And that is really what life is. We don't have to go far away and change everything and find new people and, get to the right people. That's, maybe the most important point to make. It's not about getting to the right people. It's about accepting the people that are around us and treating them well first. We're not going to be able to get to the right people. Maybe you're in a bad situation. Maybe you don't have the people that you wish you had around you. But in order to get there, you need to start here, right? What is your lot? Where are you now? What is around you? What skills and benefits do you have? What can you give to other people, right? That is, the things in which your lot has been cast, like your skills and your resources. You start where you are with the people that are around you. Yale says, I'll have to share the wisdom of the Tanakh, Old Testament, Yeah, there were some quotes from the Old Testament that I found, but and the Old Testament is written by so many different prophets. It's hard to, I was like, I already had five guys to talk about. But yeah, I mean, like I said, tell me more. Yale says, I think Baha'i has that concept. That's right. Yes, I've been drawn to Baha'i, and Yale and I have visited the only Baha'i temple in North America together. Yale says, about all the religions being correct with their own prophets. Yes, exactly. All right, Buddha. Buddha says, if we fail to look after others when they need help, who will look after us? Buddhist beliefs, they almost try to shy away from being too spiritual or talking about God or the divine. I think Buddhists would almost argue that they don't believe in God. And so Buddha's advice is probably some of the most practical, or, trying to be connected to your experience. And so what he's saying here is a very simple and practical reality, which is if we fail to look after others when they need help, who will look after us? It is a great circle. We cannot not serve others and expect others to serve us, right? I mean, a selfish and materialistic existence is dependent on others. You have not produced all the materials that you are consuming or enjoying, and if you are pursuing a materialistic life, you're probably looking at things that you want to buy. You want money, you want wealth, and all these things are from other people. And so if we don't take care of other people in this positive way, how do we expect others to take care of us? What kind of world are we building? If you're building a materialistic, selfish world, you can expect the world to be selfish and materialistic. It's that simple. But if we build a world where we are serving each other, you can imagine the great beautiful world that we can create. And so this is what he's saying. If we fail to look after others when they need help, who will look after us? Krishna says, through selfless service, you will always be fruitful and find the fulfillment of your desires. Very simple. Whatever it is that you want, through selfless service, you will get that thing. I think there is no simpler quote from this list than this one that says, follow the way of service and you will get what it is you desire. If what you desire is a beautiful world where people take care of each other, you will get that. If you desire connection with God, you will get that. And if you desire selfish materialistic wealth, or that's part of life. I have material desires, absolutely. I'm not going to pretend that I don't. I don't know if I'll ever get rid of them all. But even to get those things, to get the relationships, to get the money, to get the wealth, to get the prosperity, to get the fame, to get the love, to get the health. All of these things, they come through selfless service, as Krishna says here. Very simple. All right. Section 2, action. And this is a little bit controversial. I know in the Christian community, this quote is a bit controversial, but these are the words of Jesus. He says, "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead." So, as I said, this is a controversial one. I know from study that Christians disagree on this. And there are other words in the Bible or from Jesus that say, you can be saved by faith alone. If you've watched my other videos, you know that I don't think there is such a thing as being saved or not saved. I believe God takes care of all of his children ultimately. Ultimately, we have many lives to get this right. And so if we don't do the works that we're supposed to do, or if we don't do the service that's in front of us in the best way or in the most selfless way, it's okay. It doesn't mean you're going to hell. Okay, I believe hell is of our own creation. It's of our own, our own limiting beliefs create hell, and hell is really experienced on earth when we fail to follow these spiritual principles. But that is a separate idea. But basically, what Jesus is saying here, and as you'll see in these other quotes, you can understand and believe these things, but if you're not taking action in the world, then it's kind of doesn't mean much. I mean, and I think that we experience that in our lives. Like, we can study and meditate and take care of ourselves and believe and pray to God, but if we're not actually doing the things in the world, that's one of the things my channel is about. Like, are you following your purpose? Are you out in the world sharing your gift? Because you have specific gifts that you have brought to this planet and in this life. And if you don't share them, the world will always be missing this thing. And I say this in this video, a video I made that I released on Wednesday. Imagine all the teachers, parents, friends, even random strangers, the times that they've influenced your life. Imagine if that wasn't there. Your life would just have a different flavor. It would be missing something. And how would you get to where you are now if these people hadn't been there to help you in those moments? It's important to remember this and then to take action in the world for the benefit of others. As Buddha says, right? If you don't look after others, how will they look after you? How will they help you if you're not taking action in the world? Yale says, if there's a poor man among your brothers, you should not harden your heart or shut your hand against your poor brother. Right, from the Old Testament. And Leviticus, if your brother becomes impoverished and his means falter in your proximity, you shall strengthen him. Right. Take care of your neighbor. Take care of your brother. Thank you, Yale. All right, let's see what Buddha says about this. Buddha says, however many holy words you read, however many you speak, what good will they do you if you do not act upon them? Exactly. There's a quote that I know of. It's like there's no difference between an idiot who knows nothing and a brilliant man who knows everything but takes no action on his knowledge. Right? We talked about wisdom in the last couple of live streams. Like, what is wisdom? And wisdom is the action of your understanding of the world, which comes from your knowledge and your intelligence. So through knowledge, intelligence, and experience, you have wisdom if you apply them to the rest of your life. And so that is wisdom, and wisdom is the highest of the mental virtues, right? Very simple quote from Buddha. Laozi says, true understanding in a person has two attributes, awareness and action. Together they form a natural Tai Chi. And if you're not familiar with the Tai Chi, that is the yin-yang symbol. I can pull it up here. Might as well. There we go. There we go. That is the yin and yang. So he says that awareness and action are the yin and yang. And in yin and yang, there is the dark aspect of life and the light aspect of life. There is strength and there is weakness. There is duality in everything. And so the duality of proper life, a good life, is awareness and action. So awareness is understanding of the true principles of life, awareness of God, right? An appreciation of God and spirit and of the correct principles of life. Even if you don't believe in God, you can understand that the correct principles are to act in this way, right? If you study psychology and self-help, you understand that helping others is what leads to happiness in almost every case. And people who don't help others just cannot be happy. That is just the way life is. So the awareness, and then that leads to action. And if you have the proper awareness, it will lead to the proper action. And those are the two sides. And you can't have one without the other. You can't have good action without the proper awareness, and you can't have true awareness if you're not taking action. You can't be actually seen to be aware if you aren't taking action. There must be something you're missing if you're not taking action. And that's okay. That's what I'm here to do. I want to help you. And you can help me by clicking the like button right now. That'll spread this message and get more people in here. So click the like button. Matthew A. says, the truth is, Yale says, I like that one. Which one are you talking about? Put that in the chat, Yale. Matthew A. says, truth is universal. There is a single source of real truth. Whomever you put faith in, truth will connect all of us. Exactly. Oh, and as I was finding, I have so many quotes I collected from this project. I love this. This was a super fun presentation for me to put together. And actually, I wanted to mention this initial slide. When I was making this slide, I felt the divinity, like I felt the power of these spirits. Like I was like, this is a sacred image that I'm putting together to have all of these great masters on this in the same picture. So the quote, right, Matthew, that's what made me think of this, is the quote. It was from Buddha. He said, there are three things that cannot hide for long: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Love that quote. Love that quote. Praise Christ Yoga says, I love you are mentioning action. Such a big part. Exactly. The two attributes quote. I'm glad it speaks to you, Yale. I'm glad it speaks to you. Yes. Yes. All right. What does Marcus Aurelius say about action? Adapt thyself to the things which... Oh. Uh-oh. Ow. I had a quote from Marcus Aurelius, and I think I copy and pasted. I put this together. It wasn't easy to put it together in short notice, which I did, but unfortunately, this quote didn't come through, so I'll just move on to Krishna's quote. Krishna says, the wise man lets go of all results, whether good or bad, and is focused on the action alone. I was struck when and I haven't studied Krishna nearly as much as I've studied the other four in this list. I've studied Buddhism, I've studied Christianity, I've studied Taoism, I've studied Stoicism, which is attributed to Marcus Aurelius, or Epictetus and the people who taught Marcus Aurelius. But Marcus Aurelius, his writing might, in my opinion, be the greatest and have the most credibility because he was emperor of Rome. So I've studied their work. I have not studied Krishna's work nearly as much. I've heard some quotes here and there, but in the process of making this presentation, I searched for Krishna quotes. And what I was struck by in this quote is the way that Krishna understands and teaches the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. And my biggest understanding of growth mindset is the idea of being focused on the action, being focused on the process, and not on the outcome that you're seeking. And a lot of the quotes, and I think some of the most profound quotes coming from Krishna, mention not thinking about the results, not trying to do things for a result, but taking the right actions regardless of what you believe the result will be, and not trying to seek credit. There's another quote, and I don't know who it's attributed to, but it's a great quote. It's amazing how much good you can do if you don't care who gets the credit. You can imagine your wish to get credit for the good work that you're doing will, in some occasions, limit the good work that you will do, because you might be angling, or you'll have this little agenda in your good works to get the credit and to get it applied to you. But if you act in a way such that you are doing the right thing because you understand it is the right thing, no matter what you believe the outcome will be, that is what Krishna is speaking to here. I believe. All right, we got some chats. Thanks, guys, for chatting. I'm here to interact with you, and I love when you guys chat. So please chat. It makes the live stream so much more fun and so awesome. So let's see. Yale says the two, yeah. And then Matthew A says, I propose that God called prophets in every culture to teach his truth. I agree with you, Matthew. Every culture digested his truth into their own unique understanding. I suggest that you look into the source of Buddhist truth. I'm not sure what you mean there. I suggest that look into the source of Buddhist truth, or Krishna's source. Right. So I guess you're saying they're all from God, and I agree. Yes. I do agree with that. Yeah. And God being the creator of all that is, and being so much greater than any one spiritual teaching describes him, in my opinion. I don't know that and like I said, mixed spiritual arts, right? That's where I'm at, and I think that that's maybe my purpose, is to share it in this way, to connect people and to, diffuse the differences, and one person says, I believe I'm right, and this is what God is, and the other person says, no, this is what God is. I want to say, look, they're all speaking about the same God, and if you really look at the teachings of your spiritual masters, they agree. Okay. Yale says, not sure I agree with that one, but maybe I just don't understand it. I think you're talking about this one because I see your next message. He says, your explanation makes more sense. I'm glad that it makes sense. Yes, that's what I was going for. Matthew says, God called Moses a prophet. God called David and others. God called Jesus to be a prophet as well as more. Right. Yeah, I mean, even the Bible has, I don't know, hundreds or at least many dozens of prophets, right? God is never done. God is never, and I don't believe God limits himself to one group of people or one particular teaching, right? I mean, I think that should be obvious from these quotes. That's one of the purposes of this presentation. Why would God stop calling? Yeah, I hadn't even read your chat. That's what you're saying. Why would God stop calling prophets? Exactly. I challenge that and say he never stopped calling prophets. Matthew A says, where did they get their teachings? Well, so are you asking, or are you? I'm not sure. You're talking about Buddha and Krishna. So Krishna I believe, is like a super ancient Hindu god that the Bhagavad Gita is attributed to, but that's about all I know. So I can't really tell you much beyond that about where Krishna got his teachings. I know that Buddha got it from enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, I believe, and through meditation. And so I think Buddha's experience, I can speak to that. Buddha's experience says that if we go inward, if we meditate and we seek the truth, whether you call it the truth or God, that truth is inside us and is accessible. And that's something Laozi mentions. And I believe even Jesus teaches that as well, that it's within us. Our connection to God is always there. And so Buddha achieved enlightenment and then taught from there. That's my understanding of Buddha's story. I was commenting as you were speaking. Okay. Yale says from God, and that is what it means to be a prophet. Yeah, okay. Matthew says that is my point. Yeah, okay, so you guys agree. Right, so all of these individuals, these masters, got their wisdom from God, which is where all wisdom comes from. I agree. Matthew A says that is why truth is true in all these teachings. I love the connection. Glad you do. I love it too. And I love that you get it. All right, section 3, rewards. Hey, this should be fun. Jesus says, a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. So, basically the idea of karma, or what goes around comes around. And as Buddha said up here, this quote also kind of could go in this section. If we want others to care for us, we need to care for them, right? So a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. A generous person will prosper. The word prosper being, things will come to them. And so it's like as you give more will come to you. That's a big challenge for people. It's a big challenge for facing charity or deciding to be charitable. It's like, well, when will I get mine? If I give this away, what if I need it? If I spend my time helping others, when am I going to get paid? When am I going to get what I need? And I believe that there's a way to do it, to be sharing your gift. And I explain this in this video that I just put out. If you share your gift, you will find a niche in the world that you are needed, and you can turn it into a business and be prosperous. But it is only through making sure that your goal and your primary desire is to help other people. You get paid because it helps you to live, and you need to get paid. And also, if you prosper, it will show others that doing the right thing can be very financially rewarding. It's another video that I want to make is about, why you should get rich following the way of service, why you should make a lot of money, sharing your gift with the world. People feel bad making money from their talents and their skills and services. And what happens, and I've seen it many times, is people will underprice themselves, undervalue themselves, not charge enough, and they're doing such a great service that they become insanely busy, and then they burn out. And now nobody's benefiting, because you weren't able to do it in a methodical, patient way that also honors yourself, right? That was some of the quotes that didn't make it into the presentation talk about this. And I can make this presentation can be much longer. It should be a book, honestly. It should be, and I will continue to expand on it, but all these masters mentioned loving yourself. I actually kind of wish I had a section about loving yourself, and if I could go back and fix it, I would, but we're live, so I can't. That's fine. There'll be plenty more podcasts or live streams in which to discuss it, videos, and all of the above. But they agree on self-care and self-love. And if you don't love yourself, then you are not loving all people. And, if we talk about serving those people who are closest to you, there is no one closer to you than yourself. So you have to take care of yourself. You have to serve yourself as part of the way of service. I hope I've made that clear many times. And I think that people think that being of service, I guess it's in the word, right? Selfless. And I've used that word. It's like you can't be selfless by ignoring yourself. So maybe I need a better word than selflessness. Maybe I shouldn't use that word because I don't think that that's the right way to do it. Lots of chats. All right. Matthew A says, must drop for a meeting, frowny face. I feel you, my friend. I frown as well. I wish you could stay. Yale says, have you heard of Maimonides' 8 Degrees of Giving? It's sort of a tangent, but also interesting scale of the types of giving, something people might not have thought about. I have not heard about that. That sounds really cool. If it's about giving, I definitely want to hear about it. Through the way of service, through working on this channel, I've learned of so many writers and scholars who have studied this principle of helping. And there's a lot of material out there that I am eager to consume. Yale says, loving yourself should be its own video, to be honest. Thank you, Yale. That's a really good idea. Totally going to do that. You're right. Maybe it should be the next one. I don't know. That's a really good idea. Thank you. Praise Christ Yoga says, yes, love yourself, own video. Okay. That's 2 votes. That's the most I've gotten about what a video should be. So yes, I agree with you. That sounds like a great video topic. And especially because I didn't do it in this presentation. I didn't talk about it. All right, so let's get back to the presentation. We are kind of talking about that in this section. What are the rewards from doing the way of service, right? And I was supposed to have music, but the music keeps stopping itself. I don't understand. All right. Sorry about that. I'm not really sure why it's stopping. That's kind of annoying, but whatever. Technical issues aside, we will continue with the presentation. All right. What does Buddha say? Buddha says, if you light a lamp for someone else, it will also brighten your path. You know, Buddha's quotes are so profound and short. You know, that's one of the reasons I love Laozi's work, especially the Tao Te Ching. It's so simple, but so much truth packed into so few words. And so here you go, a perfect analogy. If you light a lamp for someone else, it will also brighten your path. It's obviously true. You know, I mean, there's no arguing with this. And this is part of life, like, you know, one of the best ways to learn something is to teach it. You know, all of these things are built into the way that life works, I believe, by God's design, such that when we do things, we are of service, we actually benefit ourselves the most in those moments of being of service. We benefit because we love to help people naturally. It is fulfilling. As I mentioned before, it'll get you paid. And just by the nature of things, if you grow yourself spiritually, or I guess if you grow someone else spiritually, or you help them, you are helping yourself in the same way. There's another quote by Buddha, and I didn't want to put in too many quotes because there's so many great quotes, but I believe the quote was, healing others is the same as healing yourself. I believe that was the quote. You know, I've got the file right here. I can just find it for you. Yeah, okay, there it is. Healing yourself is connected with healing others. So, so when you heal yourself, and this is true in energy work, I've done, you know, energy healing and prayer. You know, if you use prayer for healing, you are healing yourself at the same time as you are healing the subject of your prayer or of your energy healing or whatever you want to call it. That is just the way that's the way the universe is built, and it's beautiful. Yale says, we say the shamash lights the other candles, be the shamash. Right. Lighting flames does not diminish the flame. Yes! Yeah, isn't that great? Perfect lineup, right? And it's so fun that all these quotes go together, right? So your quote from I believe the Torah, lighting flames does not diminish the flame. And then Buddha says, if you light a lamp for someone else, it will also brighten your path. It's the same idea. Even the fire of the lamp is the same. All right, Laozi says, he who defends with love will be secure. Heaven will save him and protect him with love. Such a perfect quote. And this probably comes from a different translation because I hadn't seen this Laozi quote. And I thought I'd read all the Laozi I could find. But, you know, one of the big things, another thing I've studied a lot of, and I'm really excited. I've got a new idea for a project or a video or whatever you want to call it. You know, studying all these near-death experiences, taking the transcripts, putting them into AI, like, you know, dozens of transcripts, and being like, AI, tell me what the afterlife is like. Because there are so many details from these near-death experiences. And I feel like we can get this great picture of what it is. And the reason I bring that up is because basically they say that God is love, and that and this is every single near-death experience includes this commentary, basically that as soon as they entered the afterlife or heaven, they were enveloped in a feeling of love, and it was just this permanent feeling. It was like the air that you breathe in the afterlife is love. And so I love that Laozi, who doesn't talk about heaven or even God very often, he calls it the Tao, but he says, he who defends with love will be secure, heaven will save him and protect him with love. So, you know, I saw this quote. I have this book, actually, the parallel sayings. Let's see if I can get it put it up. So, parallel sayings of Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, and Laozi. And that was at the beginning of one of the chapters was all you need is love, right? And that's, I think it's a Beatles quote, right? Marcus Aurelius says, don't tell me I lost all my Marcus Aurelius quotes. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm just in the wrong section. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. Have I done something? This is Marcus Aurelius. Have I done something for the general interest? Well, then I have had my reward. Let this always be present to thy mind, and never stop doing such good. So I remember now, the Marcus Aurelius and the Krishna quotes are kind of like, don't worry about the rewards, you know. And we'll get into more rewards in the next section about divinity. But both Marcus Aurelius and Krishna say, don't think about the rewards. They kind of caution against it. You know, when I did a word search for rewards, this is what we got. And it's, like he said, it's like, let the good that you've done be the reward in itself. And I think there's a lot of truth in that, to really accept and see the good that you do in the world. And to me, that's what's the most exciting. And that's why I feel like I've really figured out what I'm supposed to be doing, because this project of the Way of Service, the thing that's the most exciting to me is hearing people tell me that it helped them. That is absolutely the most exciting thing. Like, I hope to make money. I hope to, like, get some fame, I guess, whatever. But, like, that's not really what it's about for me. It's about seeing how it helps people. That's really what, and the process of helping people, right? Like, go to my website and sign up for the newsletter. You get 30 minutes of free live coaching, because I want to work directly with people, sharing with them my skills and understanding regarding applying these truths, these spiritual truths, these self-help, psychological truths to your life to fix whatever problem you're having. And that's also what we can do on these live streams. If you have a problem and you want to type it in the chat, I am more than happy to give you my perspective. And I think I'd love to do some call-in shows also on the live stream. So we'll get into that when I can figure out the technical details. And I want to make sure we have people who want to call in. So if you want to call in, mention that in the chat also, or in your comments below. If you're watching the replay, just put it in the comments. And like I said, get in touch with me through my website. All right, so what did Krishna say? I believe Krishna says something very similar to say. I feel like this Krishna quote was very powerful and profound for me. You have the right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, nor be attached to inaction. So this is very powerful because, and this is powerful for me. I mean, this is something you have to remember if you're going to be in the growth mindset, if you're going to be in the process. There are so many times when you're doing the process, when you're following your dream, or you're building a business, or you're trying to get healthy, or whatever it is, you hit this plateau and you're frustrated that the thing is not happening. You're not getting the reward that you expected to get. Maybe you're being impatient. Maybe you're just having difficulty. Maybe you're losing motivation. And Krishna's quote here reminds us that we are part of a greater picture of the universe. We can never expect to get the reward that we expect to get. You know, as I said before, I think, you can make a lot of money, you can become super wealthy beyond your dreams, but also you can have bad results. Bad results as far as like not making money, or, not getting the outcome that you want. But to me, if you helped one person, that is what it was about. And that has been confirmed by these near-death experiences and the life review. The only thing that matters is how we affect the people around us. That is what our life is about. That, and I believe, enjoying life, experiencing all the different experiences of life. So I'll read it again because it's such a good quote. It might be my favorite Krishna quote from this list. You have the right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, nor be attached to inaction. I just realized, okay, we're number 20. We're halfway through, and it's taken almost an hour. Okay, well, whatever. I think we'll get through it. But if we don't, we can wait till the next live stream to finish it. All right, on to section 4, difficulty. And might have the picture I used for difficulty is myself doom scrolling. This was part of my thumbnail for the latest video. And definitely go check out the latest video if you haven't after this live stream. I want to continue to read the chat. Oh, okay, there's no new chats. Great. All right, the first quote from Jesus. Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last, and the servant of all. So this quote tells us that if we want to get to these great rewards, if we want to follow this path, sometimes we are going to be in the worst position. I mean, and nobody just demonstrated that more than Jesus Christ, right? I mean, he was crucified for doing the right thing, for teaching what he was teaching. And then he overcame death and came back to life. But he had to reach that lowest point. There's a quote from, maybe I should have put that in here for Laozi, but if you've listened to my other videos about water, Laozi uses water as an example that it is content with the low places that people disdain, and yet it nourishes all things. I think I remembered the quote without having to look it up. So it is the same as this one. Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last and the servant of all. So if you want to be the greatest person there ever was, to have the greatest life like Jesus did, then you must be the servant of all. And Jesus, this quote and his first quote are perfect demonstrations of that, right? The Son of Man, that's Jesus, did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom. Yes. All right. Marcus Aurelius is next. Begin the morning, and this is my favorite Marcus Aurelius quote, and this is right at the beginning of Meditations. He hooks you with this one. He says, begin the morning by saying to thyself, I shall meet with the busybody, the ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, unsocial. But I, who have seen the nature of the good that is beautiful, and of the bad that is ugly, I can neither be injured by any of them. So he says, he begin your day by saying, today I will meet with the busybody, the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful, the envious, and the unsocial. And even in that, you will not be injured, because you understand what is right and wrong. No matter how rude someone is to you, we've mentioned this before, no matter what negative things someone might do to you, you realize that, unless it's real abuse, and you get out of that situation, right? But unless it's real abuse, it's usually just an annoyance, even if it strikes a nerve inside of us. And when it strikes a nerve, that's something that we can learn from. What is happening here that is really tapping into my insecurity, or the thing that really bothers me? Speaking to myself here, I think that this is a very helpful way to look at it. That is how we find our weaknesses and shore up our weaknesses in our life. What are the things that hold us back from really walking this path? Examine yourself in those moments when you have very negative reactions, right? Praise Christ Yoga says, I have learned to live in the abundance you must give abundantly. Right. If you want to live in abundance, give abundantly. Yes. I like that. That's a good quote. All right. Buddha says, the only way you can become free is to love those who hate you. Very powerful, right? And this is a similar quote from Jesus, love thy enemies. Sorry, I just want to turn this down a little bit. It's getting a little loud. All right. Yeah. So again, it's an encouragement in the face of difficulty to remember that in order to make it to the next level, to follow this way, you must be able to apply your love to even those who hate you. So some of these quotes are helpful for overcoming difficulty, and some of them are just, this is how you face difficulty. And so this is an instruction of how to face difficulty. If you really want to become free, if you really want to feel that true peace, and to me, all spiritual teachings are trying to teach you to be like God, to be close to God by being like God. And so God loves everyone, even if they're a sinner, even if they're filled with hate, even if they hate God, right? He loves them as well, because he will welcome them back the second, they choose to be separate, and then the second they wish to rejoin God, he will welcome them. And it is that pure love that we must embody in this path. I'm going to, hey, 333, I'm putting it in the chat. I want to move through these quotes a little bit quicker, just in case I don't want to leave you guys hanging, okay? We've got 27 more minutes. I might be able to go a little longer, so let's continue. Krishna says, love is the only force to transform an enemy into a friend. It's basically the exact same quote as Buddha, right? The only way you can become free is to love those who hate you. Love is the only force to transform an enemy into a friend. And you can imagine, this is in the Tao Te Ching, there is no greater misfortune than having an enemy. And the only way to transform an enemy into a friend is to truly love them and to truly, put yourself in their shoes and think of the way that you can serve them instead of opposing them and trying to destroy them. That is not the way forward for humanity, right? I hope that we can end all the wars and all the fighting between peoples that has gone on for far too long, too many thousands. I think most people can agree with that. Laozi says, love is a decision, not an emotion. So powerful. I love this quote, and it's so short and succinct and perfect. It's love is a decision, not an emotion. Ooh, love it. I love it. Because we think of love, and I've heard this in some of the things I've listened to recently. The word love in English is very sloppy. It's like a blunt hammer trying to hit this beautiful array of emotions and actions and experiences in the human experience, the word love. But it's also a beautiful thing that we have this word love, which can encompass all of these things. But we think of love often as an emotion, as something that we receive or that we experience. And I think it is that, but it is also a decision that we make. And also, if we want to receive love, we have to be open to receiving it, and that is a form of love. So it's a decision, not an emotion. And in the context of following the way of service and all of the other quotes that use the word love, if you think of it as a decision, when you look at that word, I feel like it really empowers you to instill it into your life, and thus you will live it way more powerfully. Yale says, I like that as well. I'm glad. I do love my Laozi quotes, as you guys might know. All right. Section 5, Divinity. So in this section, you will see that following the way of service is divine. The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. And there's many different translations of this quote, but basically, what you do unto the least of humanity, you do unto God. And so, if you want to worship God, you have to treat everyone the best way you possibly can, even the lowest, as Jesus says here, whatever you did for the least of you did to God. Very powerful. And Krishna has a quote very similar, actually. when we act in love without attachment to the outcome, we become instruments of divine will. Actually, I had a different quote that I thought I put here, but that's okay. Basically, Krishna has the same thing. He says, whatever you do to others, you are doing to me, which is God. You are doing the same to me as that which you do to the least of us. And then this quote, when we act in love without attachment to the outcome, we become instruments of the divine will. So here, acting in love and without attachment, you become a tool of God. And that is the idea. You become the arm of God, right? It's like there's a quote, God has no hands but our own. And so when God acts in the world, he acts through people who are inspired. And because we are connected to God, we are extensions of God, we are expressions of God. This is the way to do it. You act in love and you act without attachment to the outcome. So those are the two aspects of how to act, right? And that is, as Laozi said, that is true awareness, that is understanding, is acting in love, right? Being in love, that's true awareness, and without attachment. Buddha says, neither fire nor wind, birth nor death can erase our good deeds. A powerful quote that speaks to the fact that when we do these good things, they echo throughout eternity. And as I've learned from my study of these near-death experiences, that is what seems to be recorded in I guess, the Akashic records, if you're familiar with that term. The idea that all of existence is recorded and can be accessed. And the most important thing is the good deeds. And everything else gets washed away by fire, wind, birth, and death, right? How much money we made, how much pleasure we experienced, how famous we were, whatever it is. Those things end up being inconsequential compared to our good deeds. Sorry about baby crying in the background. That's life. That's real life. All right, Praise Christ Yoga says, I love that God's truth shines through in all faiths. Yes, and that is the purpose of this presentation, is to help people understand that. All right. The next quote is from Marcus Aurelius. He who acts unjustly acts impiously, for since the universal nature has made rational animals for the sake of one another to help one another according to their deserts. So he who acts unjustly acts impiously. And I thought I had more to this quote, but I can't check it right now. I'm live. But there's like another sentence here that's like basically, he who does this offends the gods, right? And Marcus Aurelius, he followed the Roman gods. But he says, he who acts unjustly acts impiously. For since the universal nature, God has made rational animals for the sake of one another, rational animals being human beings. He's made us for the sake of one another, to help one another, according to their situation. And so if you don't follow that, you are not acting as God intends. And so he who acts unjustly acts impiously. Laozi says, if you wish to become a divine immortal angel, then restore the angelic qualities of your being through virtue and service. This is the only way to gain the attention of the immortals who teach the methods of energy enhancement and integration that are necessary to reach the divine realm. I believe this is true from my study of spirituality, that it is possible to become an angel or to become a spirit guide, to ascend spiritually. And so if you wish to become divine, then restore the angelic qualities of your being through virtue and service. And I love this quote, this is the only way to gain the attention of the immortals. If you can imagine these great powerful beings, the archangels, whatever you might imagine, they look down and they might see you behaving in selfish ways and not being of service, and they're like, okay, well, that's not interesting. I'm not going to follow him. But the second someone starts to follow the way of service, to start doing good in the world, suddenly the angel says, oh, here is someone who interests me. Here is someone who I might help and might act through. So if you wish to become a divine immortal angel, then restore the angelic qualities of your being through virtue and service. Love it. Yale says, angel is lower than man, I think. Angels do not have free will. They are part of God. Interesting. I'm not sure. I agree. But that's okay. All right. I guess from my study, I mean, I don't know about free will, but I guess what I believe is that all entities have free will. I would imagine that angels do as well. But, I mean, I don't know. I can't say one way or the other for sure. So, and I'm sure you have a reason for saying what you're saying from your study of the Old Testament or of your sources. But yeah, interesting question, interesting discussion. I would think that, if they are lower than man, we obviously wouldn't seek to become them. But I believe this quote applies anyways. You can replace angel with something else, some other concept. But I do believe that it is the higher beings who have attained wisdom through many lifetimes that come back to Earth and help us from the other side to, live the way that we're supposed to live. So this quote speaks to me. All right, we're on the last section. Advice. What is the simple advice? And this section seeks to stand alone. But the quotes, you'll still see that the quotes all align, basically telling you this is how to live. And if you take nothing else from this presentation, you can just take these quotes and live by them. Jesus says, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. The second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." So Jesus says here, step 1, love God. Step 2, love thy neighbor as thyself. And as I would say, they are all expressions of God. As he said, what you do unto the least, you do unto me. So love God, love the truth, love understanding the universe, love understanding God, studying, praying, meditating, love these things, serving yourself, taking care of yourself. I believe that's part of knowing God is to know yourself and to, seek God, connection with God, because that is how you nourish yourself the best. That's the first step. And then once you've done that of serving yourself, you then serve the people around you. Love thy neighbor as thyself. All right. Buddha's quote, "Your purpose in life is to find your purpose and give your whole heart and soul to it." I love this one because I talk so much on this channel about finding your purpose. That's what my last video was about. I believe that is the way to follow the way of service in a joyful, exciting, fun way. You're not going to have fun just going to the soup kitchen and serving soup every day. Not that volunteering in that way is a bad thing. But the best way to serve the world is to figure out what your purpose is and to do it. And you will see here, Krishna says the same thing. It is better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live an imitation of somebody else's life with perfection. Again, you must live your life. You must be who you are. That is another truth that has come. I was listening to one guy talk about his near-death experience, and in many near-death experiences, they have conversations with their spirit guides. Okay, and often their spirit guide is an ancestor, like a great-grandfather, I think it was in this case. And he said, what is the first thing you need in heaven? And he said, oh, it must be love. And he's like, no, it's not love. It's authenticity. Authenticity being the first and most primary thing. And that's like loving ourselves, being the true person that we're supposed to be, being our authentic self. That is the most important thing. Again, your purpose in your life is to find your purpose and give your whole heart and soul to it. So many great quotes here. Yeah, so this quote is, and I love that these two quotes go together. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that I wanted these two quotes to be delivered together, so I wanted to make sure that there wasn't another one. Let's read here. Praise Christ Yoga says, I believe angels are our ancestors. Yeah, I don't know. I do think that angels are like older, more highly evolved souls. That's what I think. But I don't know for sure. Ryan says, if you're true to your promises, you are not free in those agreements. Sure, you are still able to break your word, but there are real consequences. I feel like angels might fall into this dynamic. Oh, interesting. Very interesting, Ryan. Thank you. This is your first comment so far, and it's a great one. You're true to your promises. You're not free in those arguments. Yeah, so I guess what you're saying is that the angels have agreed to do certain things, and so they don't have free will outside of that. I think that they probably do, but they're such evolved beings that they would never stray from their agreements. But that's interesting. I maybe we can ask God and find out, or ask the angels themselves. How long is your agreement? Is it an eternal agreement, or is it 500,000 millennia or 500,000 million years or whatever it is? I wonder if there is a limit there, and if they will be free at some point. But I know that from my understanding of the archangels, and it's a limited understanding, but it's like they each have their own domain of overseeing existence. Like Metatron, Archangel Metatron is involved in the architecture of existence, and then the Archangel Michael is involved in like the masculine, like justice side of existence. And then I'm sure there's people out there, and please comment below or mention in the chat what you understand about the different angels and their duties and responsibilities. I find it very interesting. All right, that's Buddha and Krishna, and now we will go to Marcus Aurelius' advice. He says, keep thyself then simple, good, pure, serious, free from affectation, a friend of justice, a worshipper of the gods, kind, affectionate, strenuous in all proper acts. A little bit longer of a list, but it's a good one. Simple, good, pure, I feel like those all go together. Serious. So serious as in, I almost feel like, and let me know in the chat what you think, but it's like humor, it kind of comes from the dark side. This is interesting to me, right? So when you're serious, you're acting, you're doing the right thing. And I think that there's ways to be funny anyways, but it's almost like we need a dark side in order to have humor. Let me know what you think. I think that's certainly a dynamic I've seen. Free from affectation. I believe that what he's saying there is attachment, or being changeable in your situations based on what happens. You retain these same manners regardless of what happens. A friend of justice, I absolutely believe in that. A worshiper of the gods, a worshiper of God. Kind, affectionate, strenuous in all proper acts. Strenuous in all proper acts, I actually heard a great quote that relates to that. He said, the next time you do something, imagine that how you would do it if this was the last time you were ever allowed to do it. Such a powerful way to live our lives in a super passionate and exciting way, and to always give our full effort, as he says here, strenuous in all proper acts. If this is the last time I'm allowed to do it, because it might be, you could die tomorrow. I mean, I hope you don't, but you could. Do it as if it's the last time you ever do it. And we will finish with a Laozi quote. I have just 3 things to teach: simplicity, patience, compassion. These three are your greatest treasures: simplicity, patience, and compassion. So powerful. Simplicity to me is, I want to do the right thing. I want to live in accord with God. What does God want? And this is something Laozi talks about. It's like, free your mind from concepts. Just listen to your heart. Still your mind. Still, as he says, do you have the patience to wait for the mud to settle and your water to become clear? Can you wait until the right action arises all by itself? Here I'm quoting the Tao Te Ching without reading it. I know that that's the quote, so I don't even have to look it up. That is the question. That is simplicity. If you can live your life in a simple way, people think that this is... often what is true is that which is complicated is further and further away from God. That which is simple is closer and closer to the truth. And of course, just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. In fact, the paradox of life is that the more simple something is, the more difficult it is to follow on a regular basis. And almost the more complicated the results of the simplicity are, if you follow what I'm saying. Like, if you follow this very simple experience, your life will be this very dynamic and exciting experience. If you follow the way of service, like it unfolds in this beautiful way that you could never predict. Patience is so powerful, as I mentioned before. Like, if you're going to trust the process, patience is required. If you're going to just take action and not be focused on the results, patience is required all the time. Patience, the word patience is almost just a placeholder for being in the moment and not worrying about the results that you're seeking. You are patient when you are calmly accepting whatever non-results you're getting from your good actions. And of course, compassion. That was one of my key words when I was searching for these quotes. Compassion, mentioned a lot by Laozi and Buddha, that word specifically. To be compassionate is to care that someone is suffering, to care that, as Jesus said in the action quote, if you say to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but do nothing, then you don't care, right? That is not compassionate. Compassion is to actually take action, give them the clothes, feed them. Really caring is compassion, and caring about, all forms of ways that you might help people. I mean, I feel like the way I'm helping is because I have compassion for people who don't understand these things. That is why I do what I do, is to talk about this. It's, I have compassion for people who have been fooled by and myself as well. Is why I teach it, is because I have gone through it. I've gone through this process of learning what was false, all the things that I followed that were not true in the past, and how they hurt me, how they held me back, how they damaged what my life could have been if I didn't follow them. But now that I've found these truths, I understand how to apply them. I'm here to share that with other people, right? So what do you have to share with the world? What are the gifts that you have to give to the world? The most compassionate thing you can do is to take your specific talents and share them with the world. And that is what my latest video is about. I'd love for you to check it out. We're coming up on the end of the stream. It's almost 4 o'clock. I would love to hear more comments. Hey, we got some more chats. All right. Ryan says, exactly. Oh, yeah, you were talking about the angel comment, so that's interesting. Yale says, I need to amend my angel statement. Hey, it's all good, man. Whatever. And I'm sure you have reasons for saying what you said. It'd be interesting to hear. I would love to hear it. All this stuff is fascinating to me, like I said. That's another thing I mentioned. I'll mention it again because it's so powerful. One way to figure out what your purpose is, what your gift is what is the thing that makes you endlessly curious? And to me, these spiritual concepts and discussions, like what is the nature of the angels, it is so fascinating to me. I don't know if I could ever get enough of trying to understand it. So that's why I feel like this is my purpose. Ryan says, the term patience originates from the Latin word patientia, which means the quality of suffering or enduring without complaint. It is derived from pati, meaning to endure, undergo, or experience. Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Yeah, enduring. That's an important word that goes in with patience. Like, again, it's like when you're in the process and you're not getting the results you want, you need the patience to endure, to continue to tread the path, to continue forward in the thing that you know is right, but that the world is telling you, you're not going to make it. All the things that are thrown in our faces that make us wonder if we're going to get there, And sometimes maybe we won't get there because we might be headed somewhere else that's more important, and we don't know what that is. And so that is part of patience and simplicity and equanimity, being able to accept and handle whatever it is that comes, and to continue to do the right thing, as Marcus Aurelius said, to be free from affectation. All right, Yale says, I'm not sure what that Tzadkim are higher than angel, and that is holy righteous person in the context of Chabad literatures, who has conquered his animal impulses and is filled entirely with love and reverence for God. For they have no freedom of choice between good and evil, as man has, and their fear of love of God is natural to them. They need not create fear and love of God through natural intellectual contemplation. Of God's greatness, as it is written in, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, because of the fear and love of God are natural and instinctive to them, they are compared to animals. Sorry, that's a lot. That's all right, man. It's interesting. Just what I believe, take it as you will. Yeah, totally, man. And everybody's entitled to believe what they believe. This is one of the big things that I believe about spirituality, is like nobody has the whole picture. And my understanding from the near-death experiences, like the vastness of heaven is so much more than Earth. And a cool thing that one person said is like there are so many more spirits than there are bodies on Earth. And so to be here on Earth, and like we are like, they want to watch us, and it's exciting for them. We're like superheroes, she said, that we're down here like in this challenging environment, where I've got this bright light shining on me, and I'm talking to a camera to try to help the world. It's just so many crazy things about this world, right? But the vastness of heaven, to pretend that we could ever really know what it is totally is absolute foolishness. And I advise anyone to not be sure that they have the answer, because you're closing yourself off to learning more. But yeah, I mean, but I also think that paradoxically, like there are things that are true and there are things that are not true, and you can learn. There is knowledge to be gained. That's not to say that maybe your understanding of angels, Yale, is wrong. And maybe what you're saying is interesting. It's like there are angels, and then there are these other beings who are evolved beings who also help, but they are not like the angels who were created first, maybe. And it makes sense to me that perhaps they don't come down to be human because to be human is to have free will. So, and that's how they are able to do what they need to do, is by maintaining this, purity where they don't have free will. That's my understanding of what you're saying. It makes sense. It's very fascinating. Yale gives more quotes here. This is so only in the case of ordinary angels. There are, however, higher angels in the world of Berea, whose service of God is with intelligent fear and love. That's what I was just saying. That's fascinating, dude. Fascinating. I gotta read some of the material you're reading, because there's so many details about, the realm of God that I've not heard, that is fascinating to me. All right, that is my presentation for today. It is 4:02. I think we can wrap it up. Unless anybody has more comments, I'll stay for another few minutes. Put them in the chat right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. That grows the channel. It spreads it out there. It lets me know that people actually like what we're doing or what I'm doing. Like I said, go to the website, join the Discord, sign up for the newsletter, get free coaching if you sign up for the newsletter for a limited time. I don't know. What else can I say? Yale says, thanks for entertaining that. Great stream as always. Thank you, Yale. I appreciate that so much. I love you guys. And if that's it, we will sign off and I will see you next week.